This is Stronger Than My Father with Marcus Minis.
Welcome to another episode of Stronger Than My Father podcast. I am your host, Marcus Minis Sr. Stronger Than My Father podcast is your most trusted podcast that's centered around restoring fatherhood. Hey guys, I can't do this work by myself, so I have to thank my producer, Mr. Jim McCarthy. And if you're in need of voiceover work or if you need a great podcast producer, I encourage you to reach out to my friend at Jim McCarthy, at jmbos.com. I hope I said that right this time, Jim. And also, lastly, I'd like to thank my son, Marcus Jr., for helping his dad set up all the stuff you see around us to help record great podcast episodes. So thank you, son. Daddy loves you. Let's go to work. All right. So my guest for this episode is a cancer fighter. And usually I do my podcast centered around breast cancer awareness in October. But since your lovely daughter said, hey, I want my mom to be on your show, I said, let's make it happen. So I'd like to welcome Miss Adrian Butler. Welcome to my show.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So first thing we want to talk to my audience a little bit about yourself before we go into the cancer story. So tell my audience, who is Miss Adrian Butler?
Adrian Butler is a wife to Marvin Butler, a mother to 5 children, a grandmother to 14. I have had a background. I was always the caregiver.
Okay.
My sacrifice in life has always been, since I had my eldest, that once I had a child, then all the things that I wanted to do in life no longer existed. They took a back burner. I am the only one in my family that does not have a college degree, but I sacrificed so my husband and my children were able to. We have one that's finishing their doctrine. We have 2 that have BSs, 3 that have BSs, 2 that have masters. Our baby boy is he is a pilot in the Marine Corps and a captain. He is actively on his way back home now from being deployed.
All right.
So have a lot to be proud about. They take care of my husband and my children, make sure that we are great.
See, I learned that when you're a good parent, your kids going to take care of you. They're going to take care of you.
Absolutely.
The day my parents need us to take care of them, I'm ready. My parents still married today. They're almost 53 years in November. But the day will come where me and my brother and sister going to fight who's going to take care of mom and daddy. We're going to fight over that because we all love our parents so much. And like you said, when a parent sacrifice for their children 9 out of 10 going to make sure mom and dad is good. And I had my first guest, he takes care of his mother. He said, my mother was good. I'm going to take care of my mom. So what made you decide? And my dad told me this, is that when you have a child, you second. Your child come first. What made you decide to say, hey, I'm going to sacrifice everything I enjoy doing to be sure my kids can thrive and make it? What made you decide to do that?
That was instilled in me by my grandmother. Okay. I was raised by my grandmother. My mom was a young teenage mother. Okay. And my grandmother made it. We were in a small town in Arkansas. Okay. The sheer circumstances of my birth, of course, being black in 1957, small town. Yeah. Okay. We'll just leave that right there. But my grandmother had the option to leave me at the hospital amongst all controversy. But she didn't. She raised me as her own. And even though I was younger than her youngest child, she sacrificed everything for me. Her children were all grown, but she took care of me like her own. I was her baby. If I couldn't go, she didn't go. If I wasn't welcome, she wasn't welcome. She didn't leave me with anybody. If she couldn't leave me with them, she did not. So, and she didn't play. Everybody felt like I was a spoiled little brat, but I wasn't. I had to earn everything I got. But at the same time, she explained to me why she did the things she did and how she did them. So that's been instilled in me since a little kid. So when I had children, I wanted my children and grandchildren to feel the same way about me that I felt about her. She sacrificed everything. She was short in stature, but she carried a big stick.
I know, I've heard that before.
She wasn't 5 feet tall.
Wow.
So everything and everybody was taller and or bigger than her. But you couldn't pay them to even raise their voice.
No, because they didn't know what was going to happen. You don't mess with them. My grandmother, when you did, I'm thinking my grandmother was short, but was powerful. And I have a photo of her last birthday. And sometimes I see myself talking to her in that photo, saying, just, Grandma, I hope I'm making you proud in heaven, you know, the work that I'm doing. And but let me ask you, so just no father piece growing up, no relationship with your father? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It's ironic that, okay, imagine me growing up. So growing up, I thought my grandmother was my mother and my grandfather was my father. And then later on, a family member told something and they didn't realize they were telling it. The family came up and had visited, and then we had a family member that was a next door neighbor and all of that that kept, sent the kids. Let's back up.
Yeah.
Even though I was born in Arkansas, my grandparents moved to Chicago in 1959. I was born in 1957. So typically, other than a birthright, I'm a Chicago native.
Chicago, Chi-Town. Yeah.
So you had people that kept you, and they sent you to school, Kindergartners went to school. If you started in the morning, because you went a half day. After Christmas, you went in the afternoon. So there was always someone that sent us and received us. You had to come home for lunch because there were no cafeterias. So this particular year, it was my grandmother's first cousin that lived next door, and his mother-in-law is the one that sent both I and their children to school and kept them whatever. Well, his sister came up from Arkansas, and everybody was in there. We came home from school. Everybody know everybody's name. My nickname is Prissy. And my mother is known as Peaches. And then they had a cousin known as Peaches. So it was the cousins, her mother, and my great-grandmother were sisters. So they call my great-grandmother Aunt Sweet.
Okay.
And they call my great-auntie, they call her Annie. Okay. So when they would say the Peacheses, they would say Sweet's Peaches or Annie's Peaches.
Wow.
So, Annie's Peaches told Prissy, me, she said, how's your mama doing? I said, she fine. She'll be home when Garfield Goose go off. She said, no, that's your grandmama. I'm talking about your mama, Peaches, which is Sweet's Peaches.
Yeah, I'm going to say that, yeah.
Okay. I said, she not my mama. I said, she my sister.
Wow.
That's what I said. And her sister-in-law hunched her.
Like, be quiet, you don't need to say that. Yeah.
I never forget that. What went on after that, I can't tell you. But when we got home at the dinner table, I said, Ma, is Peaches my mama? Is she my sister? You can hear pin drop. My mom, my grandmother dropped her fork.
I was going to say that.
My grandfather dropped his fork. And my grandmother just as sweetly said, where'd you hit it at, baby? I said, well, Aunt Peaches said that Peaches, she not my sister, she my mama, and you my grandmama.
Wow.
What went on from there, I don't know. But as time went on, and I was no more than about 7 years old.
Yeah.
And as time went on, I learned some other things. And it bothered me because I had a lot of confusion. Well, why didn't you tell me? My grandmother, sweetly again, explained. There were some things that you don't tell children. Adults don't talk to children about until they're ready.
That's my mom's advice right there.
That's what she said.
That's the advice right there. Yeah.
That's what she said. And as time went on, well, of course, I was just kind of, and like any other kid, when I wanted some and I said no, you know, one time I stomped my foot and said, well, you not my mama, you my grandmama.
Ooh, gee, you drop a bomb on that one. Ooh, I know that didn't end well.
Baby.
I know that didn't end well.
Sat down. As they said, not sit down, I still can't sit down.
Okay.
And she went on. Even with that, she hugged me up, she loved me up, and she explained some things. Well, so now I have the turn of events. Well, my sister, my mama's not my mama, she's my grandma. My grandfather's not my grandfather. I mean,
he's not my father.
He's not my father.
Yeah.
He's my grandfather. And my sister is not my sister, she my mama. And my brother-in-law is not my brother-in-law, he my daddy. Well, fast forwarding, when I got to be in the 8th grade in Chicago, in order to go to high school, you had to get a physical, you had to pass the Constitution, and it's a couple other things that we had to do. But anyway, when I got my physical, they found out that I had enlarged tonsils. So they said, well, we called it cleanup week. Y'all call it spring break, cleanup week. Well, we'll do it then. So when they took me to the hospital, and they were asking all the questions and and it was like, so then it was, well, you know how they ask certain questions and things get silent, or my grandmother said, why do you need to know that? Why do you need to do that? Well, they sent me on a wild goose chase around the hospital, you know. Here I am, 13 years old. You know I'm not going to fit in a pediatric bed. Well, the little orderly, we got back too soon. They were still going back and forth. Well, it turned out it was some more added to that, which I won't disclose that
that's
publicly
fine.
like that. But, and it was like, okay, now. So now it's like, I got some information that told me out the frame. I should have gotten help.
That's what the last guy who was on here talking about mental health and trauma, and a lot of people don't get that.
I should have gotten some help. But because I was so smart and so outgoing and just my own person, it just slid by. I started having issues. I ended up started having ulcers at 13 years old.
Wow.
They couldn't understand why. Well, even my mom said, you know what, and I went back and forth. And so my junior year in high school, I chose to go live with my mom. And my parents were divorced at that time. And I chose to go live with her. But mind you now, I've not lived with her for 16 years. And everything is instilled in me by my grandmother. My mother tried to re-raise a 16-year-old.
That ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work.
I had 3 younger brothers. That was the apple of their eye. I was the apple of my grandmother's eye, even though my grandmother made no difference, but I was her baby. But what I got, they got. But if closed mouths don't get fed, if my mother did not let my grandmother know out of pride and not let her know she didn't know, I'm not asking, but well, that had no. But by the time I found out the truth about things, I went through some things internally because I was like, I felt like I was the problem. Until only a couple of years ago that I realized I wasn't the problem. I was the result of.
There you go.
I was a constant reminder, but it wasn't my fault. Everybody I asked a question to, I got a different answer. I got mistreated by people that shouldn't have mistreated me. But when they got around my grandmother, or they got around my parents, they acted differently. They moved around differently. And even to the point of things where they were watching one individual, but I was served up to some more. Let's read in between the lines.
Yeah.
My sister, which was really my auntie, okay, and I told her, and she said, well, why didn't you say something? I said, because you know the drill. They tell you, if you tell it, they not going to believe you. You're a child, and they going to say you lying on an adult, and you going to be in trouble.
A lot of people said they happened back in the 60s and stuff like that.
Yes,
People
it
didn't tell
did. I'm here
kids
to prove it.
Kids being molested or raped. People didn't say nothing back then. And that trauma carries you on because no one talks about it. And that's why I use this platform for people to talk.
Yes.
We got to tell the truth about stuff. And that why some of these kids act up, why kids have these different issues, is that if they're dealing with kid trauma, who's helping them?
Exactly.
Who's helping them deal with their trauma and their issues? And if no one deals with it, then they get swept under the rug, but then it causes future problems.
Yes.
It causes future problems, and that's the thing where I think that it needs to be addressed.
Yes, it definitely needs to be addressed. And with that being said, my daughter, which you know her, she would say, Mama or Daddy was so strict or whatever. Because of the mindset that I had, I didn't send my kids anywhere. Everybody could come to my house because I knew it was a safe haven. Yeah. They couldn't go just anywhere because I had no control over that. And I knew my mindset that when it came to one of mine. I ain't no gangster, but don't push me.
My mom is the same way. Mama didn't. Mom, can I go over so and so? I don't know who's gonna be at their house.
No.
So my parents really protected us and sheltered us, and they didn't send us certain places. I don't remember ever doing a sleepover at any kid's house.
Okay.
Because my mom and dad ain't gonna do it.
No.
Only sleepover I can remember was at grandmama's house.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay.
That I can remember of me doing sleepovers. It wasn't, can I go with giant sleepover?
Angelica came to me one time. Now, she's in the 7th grade.
Yeah.
Now, in the 7th grade, she was already taller than me and could wear the same size clothes because I weighed 112 pounds soaking wet. And she said, Mama, can I wear some? No, ma'am. Well, Mama, I'm just going to give a fictitious name. Well, Sally Sue's mama, they change clothes and they do whatever and they go hang out together and they can do and they can say what I said. Well, let me explain something to you right now.
Oh, you sound like my mom.
Okay, my grandmother did not allow anybody to interchange clothes. Everybody had their own. Yeah. You couldn't wear your sister, brother, nobody else, nothing. You better not bring nothing home, had it on your back, and she didn't buy it.
Ooh, I ain't never heard it. Yeah, that's hardcore right there.
No. Yeah. And then when you did, you know, when I got with them, and when she told me that, I said, let me explain something to you. I'm your mother.
There you go.
I'm too busy trying to raise you. I don't have time to be your friend. When you become an adult, then we can be friends. But
my
right
mama
now,
said the same thing.
I got to concentrate on raising you. I said, because if I stoop to that level and then your grandmother comes and you free to say whatever you want, how you want, when you want, like you want, and then I know I couldn't do that with her, and then I want to chastise you, I'm wrong. That wasn't your fault because I stooped to your level. Yeah. No. You stay in a child's place, I'll stay in an adult's place. Yeah. And then we don't have to worry about that ever.
Yeah. Oh, you sound, man, Jesus Christ. This is my mama all over again. The mom was strict. She was strict on us, and she made sure she protected us. Because I would say this, and you can give me some motherly advice, and we're gonna get to your cancer story, but this is so good.
It all feeds in. It all feeds in.
Okay.
It all feeds
in.
I
remember I did a podcast and I had a comment that somebody said that the young man, they call me young man, is book smart, but he's been sheltered. And the word sheltered bothered me so bad, I called my mama. I said, Mom, I'm 47. And I said, what do you mean by we were sheltered? And she said, Mark, me and your father decided not to put y'all around stuff that was going to harm y'all. So we sheltered y'all from a lot of stuff. we knew when you become an adult you was going to see some stuff. But as a child, we didn't want you to go through that stuff as a child. And so, in my opinion, do you think parents need to shelter their kids? It's stuff more going on now more than ever. And in 2024, it's more stuff that I didn't see growing up. But I'm a parent now. Now I'm a father. I'm a father of a 15-year-old, 8-year-old. What do I shelter my kids from, or should I just let them live life? And that's been a hot topic on this podcast. Saying, Mark, are you overprotective over your boys? And you need to let them live. And for me as a dad, I don't know how to do that. All I know is protection. So you tell me, am I sheltering my boys too much?
My husband that just walked out of here. Okay. I came from a household of shelter.
Okay.
Like you. My older brother, when my two oldest brothers both went out to the military, my oldest brother took me out in the backyard and he taught me how to fight. Okay. He said because my sister was married, she had left home, and the two boys were gone away, so I was at home, whereas everybody identified me with my older siblings or whatever. Yeah. So in Chicago, South Side,
yeah.
Inglewood to be specific, what the people now call Chirac.
Yep.
That is my stomping ground. When we moved over there, there was the cutoff was State Street. Anything east of State Street was black. Anything west of State Street was white. Okay. And the lines kept moving. But when we moved over there, imagine a 5-pound bag of sugar, and you take a black pepper shake and do this one time. That's how far and few between that the blacks were. Wow. In 1962. As time evolved, the house that my grandparents bought when I was in 1962, we didn't move in there till 63 because they had to, wait or whatever. But imagine going to that and you still were in that bondage, so to speak. Okay? My grandparents never taught us racism. Never, ever taught us racism. They always talked to us about everything, but they made us aware. Okay. And I'm going to give you this short story to kind of bring it in. Okay. Where I lived, there was a school 2 blocks away. I couldn't go. I had to go to the school 4 blocks away. Okay. And you go on the playground, and at that time they had, and y'all see it here, there was a line on the playground. Boys can play with the girls, and the girls can play with the boys. You all went in separate doors. You did all that. Yeah, we were separated. Well, most of the white mothers, they were at home with their kids. A lot of the black kids, their parents were 2 parents, or if you didn't have a grandparent, or do whatever. So we played, the old game tag. Well, I had just walked up on the playground, and one of my classmates, and she walked up and she tagged me and said, "You it." Well, I went to tag her right back. She slipped because we were little patent leather shoes. Her mother picked her up, dusted her off, spanked her on her bottom, and said, "Didn't I tell you about playing with them little niggas?" Me? I'll go home. Another one of them dinner table issues. I said, "Ma," I said, "what's a nigga?" Forks dropped again. She said, "Where did you hear that word?" I said, "Well," I told her the story I just told you. I said, "I just want to know so I don't play with one because I don't want you to whoop me." Dang. Not knowing I was who they were referring to. Wow. Again, my grandmother never fed into it. She educated me. We were educated with things. And just going forward. And I was taught, we was always taught, quit blaming everybody else. Quit looking for somebody else to come and save you. They fought for us to go to school. Go to school, get an education. Those that know better, do better. So if they teach us better, we know better, we do better. That's where it comes in. So no, you're not over sheltered. But then my husband, he come up in a totally different atmosphere. Not totally, but his family was much more open because he grew up with a drug addict father.
Got it.
But his mother was not. Okay? But my father-in-law, he did his whatever, and that was just to embarrass his mother. Because he came from a very well-to-do black family in Nashville. And he did whatever, but my mother-in-law, which she'd kill me if she heard that word because I've always been her child. She said they were always able to talk about and explain things and whatever. So when my husband married me, well, I got this starch. And he got this, but no, we talk about it, we educate him. When rap first came out, they not listening to that, they doing all that. My husband, he let him listen to it, and he listened to it with him. And he sat me down, he talked to me. He said, Adrian, I do it so I know what my kids are listening to, so I know what I need to do. So our kids can come and talk to us about anything. And his rule has always been, and that came on both sides of the family, I don't care what you do out there. I don't care what you do. I don't care how bad it is. You come and tell us the truth. Now, if you make sure you're absolutely right.
But that's mama. That's my mama.
Because if I get up there and get a different story,
it's over.
You got to deal with me. But you don't fight a fight with adults. That's my job. That's what their father, my husband, said.
Boy, that's my mama all over again. My mom said she said, son, I always tell the truth. Because if I hear a different truth, I'm going to get you for lying. And I remember, man, but we could be on this thing for an hour for the things because you doing everything my mom. Cause my mom grew up in Memphis, civil rights movement. She grew up with all of that. But the opposite of you is that my mom raised us through civil rights. So we had to watch the movies and the Eyes on the Prize. And that's honestly how I became a huge Dr. King fanatic. Is because of the thing why I became a King fanatic is that King served. It's really just through serving. You know, the work that I do with mentorship, everything I'm doing is serving. And my mother, when I interviewed her, she said, all your life you serve people and you've helped people. And so I had to learn how to accept that, which is still hard today. It's still hard for me because I grew up in a normal household. Hardly ever seen my parents argue, never seen violence. I ain't see violence. I saw it on television. I didn't know what domestic violence was until I saw a movie and I was like, why is he hitting her? You know, then I'm mad. So I don't watch movies with domestic violence. I will not watch it because I can't stand if a man hit a woman. So my wife upbringing is totally opposite. So just like you and your husband, I had to deal with the same thing. And we had to learn how to balance each other.
Yes.
And once we learn how to balance each other, and we've been married, June will be 23 years. We still are learning how to balance each other. And because she's totally opposite from me. So I'm the one doing the podcast and this and that. She more like homebody. Saturday is my relaxed day. Me, I'm like, what can I go do today? And then after 12, it's family time. Because she ain't getting up for 12. So she going to keep us telling that. So we balance each other out in that sense. And so I know we could talk more. My time is limited, but I want to talk about your cancer story. Your diagnosis, how you battling, and the mental aspect of when a person gets that word that they have cancer. But I've definitely got to bring you back to your daughter because I got to get to some more of your mother advice. Because I'm telling you, you gave me some nuggets. For my
He's who you really need. You need to have us both.
Okay, you know what? Next time we're gonna do that.
Yeah.
And you know what? I would love if you and my mother did one together.
Sure.
Because y'all both similar to my mom is 7 years older than you, but I think just your stories are similar. And I like pushing people on podcasts. I push you to tell your story because people listen. And understanding why people act a certain way, and it's a lot of times it's how you're raised, And so when you people we love each other, we get married, but then you still got to deal with two different personalities.
Two different upbringings.
And so that's why now I see why divorce is on a high rate now. I've learned why people get divorced quick now. It's because two people come together, we put on the mask, and then we get married, and then the mask start coming off little by little, and you like, I don't want to deal with that person. So you know what? I'm out. But for me and my wife, I had to learn. She grew up single child. I grew up with a big family. So when I'll tell you the story, we got to get your cancer story, is that when we got married, my house was right around the corner from my mom and dad. So when my wife got home, where was I at?
Oh, your mom and daddy house.
There you go. You know what my wife did? She said, you need to come home. I'm going to my mom and daddy house. I'm at my mom and daddy house. My wife called my mama. One day I went to my mama's house. My mama said, go home. I said, why? You go home and be with your wife. Don't come back over here unless you tell her and she said you can come over. I said, well, I got to ask her. She said, that's your wife. You decided to get married. And that's probably saved us. That's what saved us, because I was so used to being around mom and dad that, and my brothers, because my brothers lived next door. I still enjoyed that. But she, instead of us arguing, she said, I got to go to the next best source. Mark's close to his mother. Let me talk to her. And I went to my mama's house ready to go eat dinner and relax. My mama said, go home. That's what she told me. I never forget to this day. She told me to go home, and because she said, you decided to go get married, you need to be home with your wife. And then my mom and dad moved 6 months later to the country. Now they live an hour from me. And Walmart said, you ain't going over there no more now. And so she got with that. But tell my audience a little bit about, you have your hat, which is Stronger Than Cancer. Tell them what you're battling and just how that journey has taken you.
Okay, well, our nonprofit is called All Cancers Are Not Pink, All Cancers Matter. The short of a better term, the foundation, no, it's not the foundation, it's the organization that they have, the nonprofit that they brought together. It was brought about, it's called Boogie Down Ministries, because the kids named me Ace Boogie, so Boogie Down Ministries. But the way that it came about, I cancer walk the way that it is. I'll get to that, a little later. But I, in 2014, I had some things that was going on with my body and didn't quite. They went to Matthew Walker. Matthew Walker dropped the ball. They said that I was stressed because I had been going through some things where they told me I was just suppressed. They gave me something to stop the bleeding and gave me an antidepressant and sent me on. And then I had already, started menopause. And then that, that went on. It's just really, but I just had that one time, and I went to that and we did what I had to do. So then came that January, I went for a physical with my primary care, Dr. Beverly Turner Winbush, who I owe my life.
Okay.
And she did the exam, and she started feeling. She said, "You feel that?" Yeah. She said, "You feel that?" Yeah. She said, "Do you?" I said, "Just fat." I mean, I felt like I had just gained weight or whatever. So she did set me for a complete ultrasound transvaginal, which people, if you don't know, it's where they take a probe and they go in and they turned me every which way but loose. And I mean, when I tell you I was in pain, flipping and going, well, so they didn't say nothing. So when she got the results back, she called my baby girl and my husband and had them come in, and they brought me in on a pretense that diabetes, because my blood sugar had gone up. And so then when they told me what was going on, she was like, they really couldn't lay their hands on it, but she was concerned. And when she told me what it could be, and I was just as calm, because I've always been the caregiver. Yeah. So she asked my daughter, she said, she always said that calm about stuff. My daughter and my husband went kind of like. So then after she had them step out, she talked to me. And I explained to her, whatever you think it is, let's see what it is. If I don't know, I don't know what to do. there's no sense in me being afraid because I don't know what I'm afraid of. So she immediately, because the oncologist, Dr. Laura Williams, she was upstairs, they were friends, and so she got me in immediately. I went up, she saw all that. She said, well, and my baby girl again, she said, well, do you think it's cancer? Then she said, right now it's all pointing at it's fibroids. No, nothing else. But so when they scheduled the surgery, of course you had to go for pre-op.
Yeah.
And when they took the x-rays and done everything, but in my lungs, they kept saying, they saw all these spots. First they thought it was just a bad x-ray. Went back, still there. Well, they went on with the surgery. And they came back out while I was on the table, and everybody was there, whatever, and my cousin was sitting there, and they all just lost it and left. She stood there, she said, wait a minute, I got questions. What they found the they did find cancer, wasn't looking for cancer. They found it on the muscle that pushes the baby out. Okay, that's where it was. And because it was that rare type of uterine cancer, it's one that's not curable because it was in a muscle. It could go anywhere and pop its ugly head up at any time. And that was its M.O. That's what was in my lungs. My lungs looked like someone had took a machine gun and just riddled me with bullets in both lungs. Well, when they did the hysterectomy, they did a total hysterectomy. I had a joke with it. If they put my feet in the stirrups and shine a light, and I said, you'd see that light come up on the wall up there, because there was nothing. And so then, what they ended up treating was the lungs.
Got it.
And they brought everybody in. The kids wanted to send me to Atlanta. They wanted to send me to Chicago. They wanted to do all these different things, Cancer Cities of America and whatever. But Dr. Williams said, well, basically, what she's doing is the same thing, but if that's what they want to do, she'll stop what she's going to do right now. I'm like, well, why should I have to travel when everything's going to be right here? We went on with that. They put it in a port, which that's there. And so I saw now, she said, but I'm going to be honest with you. We can't guarantee that you're going to beat this and that you're going to get past the end of the year, 2015. And so they talked about their round table. I said, well, I'm going to go for it. They said, well, okay, if Mama's going to be behind. And they had a meeting. And they said, Mama, your job is to get well. Daddy, your job is to support Mama. We got the rest. All my husband had to do was keep a house note paid. Our children did the rest. When I tell you everything, even to the point if I needed medicine, they do whatever. But because he was toe down, he was, what you understand.
Yeah.
He had to sit there and watch that, and that was one of the things that he said no one had ever asked him until last year. How did that affect him? That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, well,
and so we went on from there, and I went through all, and I mean, it was hard. I'm not gonna lie, but I made it look easy. Yeah. And everybody was saying, well, I could have been angry at God and say, why me? Why me, God? Why me? But I thought about it. Why not me? I was that strong one. I was totally healthy. I never drank, smoked, got high, never did none of that. None of that. I was always the little good girl, so to speak. Why not me? Because then I can teach those and be strong for those that are weak. We went on. That's how we went on with that. And so just bringing you fast forward, that was what went on there. That was in July the 2nd, 2015. The next time it showed its head again was 2019, where it metastasized to my spine, my thoracic spine. I have 12 screws and 2 rods in it because it had went there. And again, I had no symptoms or whatever, and I was having this back pain. I can't explain it. It was so excruciating. It was a tumor, pushing up on that spinal cord. Had it got in there, it was lights out. They got in there, got that surgery done, got that out. They had to fuse my spine, my thoracic spine and all of that. I come back through there with the will of God and my village. And so then we move forward, and my daughter, Angelica, the kids, they said, Mama, we want to do a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And we want to recognize uterine cancer, because uterine cancer is the forgotten cancer.
Yeah.
For gynecological. And we wanted to get that out there. There are 3 people that I know of that were diagnosed after me. Because of me, they're okay.
Yeah.
They're cancer free, which I will never be. And so then we're going to come forward again, and not last year, but the year before last, with the maiden voyage of it. The reason it ended up in February, my daughter wanted to do a small walk and wanted to do it at our church.
Yeah.
St. Luke Primitive Baptist Church, 135 Lewis Street.
Yeah, I know St. Luke, yeah.
And when she presented it to the pastor and then vice chair, the deacon board, or whatever, they wanted to know, well, what do we get out of it? Is the money for her? Who is the money for? Is it for her? Yeah, I'm going to tell it.
I will go off.
She was so devastated, and we've been in that church. My husband been in that church all his life. I've been in there for 34 years, and we were big pillars of the church and everything.
Yeah.
She was so upset. She called me at 7 o'clock in the morning in tears. I said, baby, don't worry about it. I said, God got something bigger for you. But Mama, don't worry about it. Don't fight him. Don't ask him for another thing. Those were the words came out my mouth.
Wow.
So as soon as she got off the phone and she had put out there, you know how she's good with social
your
media.
daughter's good.
Her phone and everything just boom, 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 boom. So that's when we found out that Cancer Awareness Month is in February.
Oh, okay. I always thought, I just think of October all the time for breast cancer.
October is breast cancer.
Breast cancer, okay.
September is uterine cancer.
Okay, got it.
Each cancer has a month.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Each cancer has a ribbon.
That's why at the event you had all the ribbons and stuff. Okay.
Each cancer has a ribbon.
Okay.
And when they did that, and they decided to recognize all cancers, that's how we became what we are today.
Okay.
And because it was held on the inside and not the outside, they would just, and everybody loved the fact that, oh, we're inside, we can see, we can participate in everything. Whereas when you walk the street, I don't have anything against that, but when you walk the street, you only see who start off with you. Yep. You don't see everybody else with that. But the way that ours is set up, I get to greet and meet and take a picture and conversate with each and everybody, whether they're vendors, survivors, whatever.
Well, the event that I went to with your daughter was amazing. Just to see, the thing that really moved me is when I see your daughter, how much she loves you. That's what moved me the most, is that when a parent does their job, and when life happens, your kid's gonna be there. If you do right, like I told you at the beginning, something happened to mom and dad, they need me right now, I'm gone. I love my father. We was glad because we got to get ready for them cicadas that comes out in a few months. And my daddy said, well, be sure you're ready to come, because we have a lawn service business. And I think that every child, and I will say this, if your parents do good by you, you got to be there for them. And I've seen how much your daughter has put these events and stuff like that.
And that's all the kids.
Yeah, but I only follow just your daughter, but I'm glad all your kids come together and make sure we're going to take care of mama.
Yeah.
And so, and I was telling one guy who I recorded earlier today that when I go to church, I don't usually leave church until mama leaves. And and she see all her kids come together. I have 2 brothers and a sister. All of us and the grandkids hold around mama in her car every Sunday until mama leaves. When mama leaves, we all break apart. But that shows you the value of family. So I hate we got to stop because I got to get my baby to the barbershop at 3. But I want to thank you for your story. Sure. I know we didn't hit a lot on cancer, but I think just your upbringing, so my guests know more about you. Also, your wisdom that you've given over the mic has really moved me, especially helped me with my son. I've already asked 3 or 4 people because I'm a father and I just want the best for my baby. And I know my boy's 15, and but he's like, when we sit in the car and we driving, he's the 15-year-old version of me, and I feel like I'm my dad. And I just want to be sure that my son has the best opportunity in life and what life brings him. But where can people find your website as we close this podcast
it's
out?
It's called Boogie Down Ministries.
Boogie Down Ministry.
Boogie Down Ministry. They can look it up with all of that information. You know, it's all.
And they can donate too, right?
You can still donate. They still have T-shirts and hats and things that you can still purchase. Just because the walk is over don't mean that you can't continue to donate, because we still have things that we have to do on the platform.
Okay.
And I want to put out there, please be aware of your bodies.
Thank you.
Don't just take no for an answer. Don't just let somebody shove you off. Because cancer affects everybody, not just females, but men, children, all of that. Just know your bodies, ask questions. Don't, if someone flips you off, just know, go to the next person.
Thank you.
Don't ever give up. Do not. Knowledge is power. I repeat, knowledge is power. Whoa. When you know what you're fighting, you know what you need to do.
Man, you are activist.
That's
are
all
a true
you do. That's
activist.
all you do. That's all you do. Just remember, Boogie Down Ministries, and I am a Spoogie.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and giving your story. You have moved me. And I didn't know we was going to go that way, but I told you this is how I do my podcast. So thank you so much for coming on. And I promise you we're going to do this again soon.
Yes,
all right. Hey, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Stronger Than My Father podcast, your most trusted podcast that's centered around fatherhood. If you like what you hear, I ask you to please click and subscribe on our YouTube page. My goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So please help me reach that goal. And also, if you like what you hear, please help me keep this podcast on the air with a donation of $25 or more by going to our website at strongerthanmyfather.org/donate. Help us fight for fatherhood. Hey, I'd like to thank my producer, Jim McCarthy, for putting up with 4 hours with me, recording podcast after podcast. And you never know what he's going to hear on my podcast, but I love him to death. He's a good friend, and thank God for an opportunity to have a great producer. And like I said, if you need a podcast producer, reach out to my friend, Jim McCarthy at jmvos.com. God bless you. See you another episode of Stronger Than My Father podcast.